Rashi tells us, and Rashi tells us, what was Moses doing when the Jewish people were going out of Egypt? It says in verse 19, Veikach Moshe es atzmos Yosef imo. Moses, as the people were leaving, took the bones of Joseph with him. Because Hashpeah Hishpeah as Bnei Israel and more, because Joseph had made the children of Israel swear, saying, Hakod yifkod Elokim eslem, v'alisem esat mosai mizeitchem. He said, remember, God will remember you, and he will lift up your bones. You shall bring my bones up from here with you. Rashi says that he took the bones of Joseph, and Joseph had made them swear. That's what Rashi comments on. And Rashi also tells us that he also took up the bones of the other tribes. But the Midrash tells us about Moshe being the one to do this. Midrash says, Alava Katuv Amer, the verse states about Moses, Chacham Wei Vikach Mitzvos. Somebody who's wise is going to seize an opportunity to do a mitzvah. Kol Yisrael ayu asukim b'kesav v'zav. The rest of Israel was involved in collecting the silver and the gold from the Egyptians. Moses was involved in doing a mitzvah. Moshe yasuk ba'atzmot Yosef. As it states, Veikach Moshe atzmos Yosef. Moshe took the bones of Joseph. God said about this, about Moses, Chacham levikach mitzvos. The wise one will grab mitzvos. Because Yosef hayachayev la'aviv l'kavrim, they should know. Joseph had an obligation to bury his father because he was his son. But you're not his son. You're not even his grandson. You're not obligated to bury Moses, and yet you buried him. So too I'm not obligated to any creature. I'll take care of you and bury you when your time comes. God promised to bury Moses. As it says, Vayikboro Tobagai. And how did Moshe know where Joseph was buried? Some say that Serach, the daughter of Asher, she's the one who showed him where it was. And Joseph was buried in the Nile River. What did Moshe do? Moshe went there, and the Devarim Rabbah tells us that Joseph was in a metal coffin, and Moshe summoned him by saying, speak up now, or you're going to lose your opportunity to come with us. But I want to read what Rabbi Soloveitchik says about this. Rabbi Soloveitchik says something very, very powerful. Rabbi Soloveitchik writes, on the night the Jews were ready for their triumphant exodus, the Midrash relates that Moshe searched for Joseph's coffin. In this way, Moshe acknowledged the importance of Joseph and his spiritual mission as the paragon of the Jewish commitment in exile. Joseph had demonstrated that one could identify as a Jew and act in accordance with the Torah, both in poverty as a slave and in royal grandeur as the ruler of Egypt. So the people they had lived as Jews, as slaves, but now they're going out with royal grandeur. So they need to have the bones of Joseph to inspire them. Without his example, Jews could not have endured the centuries of enslavement in Egypt. But why did it have to be Moses to take them out? The commentaries suggest it was because Moshe was the grandson of Levi, Joseph's greatest antagonist. The rabbis say that Levi was the one who actually sold Joseph, and he was among the greatest of scoffers, as Joseph recounted his dreams. But through his descendant Moses, Levi vicariously acknowledged his mistake. The Talmud tells us that Moses physically carried Joseph's coffin and internalized Joseph's legacy. Moshe acknowledged that the entire nation owed their gratitude to Joseph, not only for their physical well-being, but also for his spiritual leadership and example as represented in his second dream. Could there be a more beautiful example of such obeisance than Moses carrying Joseph's coffin on his shoulders? So Moses had to do it in order to be the one to acknowledge that the Jewish people were recognizing Joseph's greatness, and he, as the grandson of Levi, was finally subjugating himself to Moses' greatness. So why is this the emphasis now, that the bones of Joseph were carried up? It's to make the point, when we achieve success, we always have to remember where we came from, what got us there. The bones of Joseph. As the Jewish people are celebrating freedom, it's at that moment they have to turn back and recognize that they came from the bones of Joseph. Let's see, George has a question here. Yes, George.
This issue of the